Welcome back guys to the SSIS training sessions, and in last session we discussed about SSIS logging and event handlers and a little bit, what's the use of package explorer and so on. And unfortunately the session got stuck and the video is not in a better position, better format, and hence I have not uploaded the video to YouTube. I have uploaded the video to forshare.com from where you can download and you can see using Windows Media Player. It's not playing even in VLC and other players. So the only player which you can use for that one is Windows Media Player. And if you need any codecs, just download it. It will prompt. You can just download it. So we're done with almost all the concepts apart from the data flow in the control flow task. So let's start with the data flow task. Data flow tab, the last tab that is pending to discuss. And after this, there will be discussion on deployment and how to run the packages, how to pass the variables, package configurations, and so on. So first, let's start with the data flow here. Let me go to the control flow, and I've added the data flow. See, all the items that are available in the control flow will fall into one group, and this data flow is into different group. All items all together that are present in control flow is less than what you have in the data flow. The functionality is less than what you have in the data flow. In data flow, you are gonna move the data in the data flow. The main data flow will happen with this task, control flow task called data flow. And if you drag a data flow, that is why there is a separate engine for data flow. Control flow engine is different and data flow engine is different. And to make use of the data flow or to configure the data flow, you have to drag this, and if you edit it, it will take you to the data flow tab. You can see. Let's say if you have more than one data flow task available here. Let's say you have two data flow tasks, one for loading XYZ table and another one for loading data into ABC tables. Then if you go to the data flow task, it will have the same pane for configuring it, but you will have a drop down where you can configure which data flow functionality you are going to write. Let's say you have some functionality underscore on the data flow task, it will be shown here when you select this one, and you can modify it. In the same way, if you want to modify for data flow task 1, you have to select this. So it is saying that there are 3 data flow tasks. Let's see where the third one is hiding. It should be somewhere here. Yes. So let me drag these two here and let me keep the connection. So if you want to write the functionality for data flow task, then you just double click on it. It will take you here. If you want to write for the second one, you can double click on it. You can add the functionality here. Yes, I'm sharing the screen. So I have the screen got stuck for a couple of minutes. Sorry, my apologies for that. And I have 3 data flow tasks dragged and dropped into the control flow pane. And all these 3, you can write the functionality in the data flow task, data flow tab. Okay. Now let's see what we have in data flow and what is the use of data flow, or what is data flow. If you see, we discussed about SSIS main job is to move the data from source to destination, right? So let's say this is your source and this is your destination, and also we discussed like while moving you can transform the data. Let's say you're transforming the data here. Transforming means making changes to the data. It's not like as is data, whatever it is here. It's not like copying it exact data to the destination. You're going to change the data in the middle. You're going to modify it. So you need 3 tasks. One is E, that means extracting the data from the source and transform the data in the middle when it is in pipeline, and load to the destination. So all these 3 will form ETL, extract, transformation, and load, which is nothing but the main task of the SSIS. Now, whatever the task we discussed that are present in control flow will not do this job. Only the data flow job is ETL. So you can imagine it's heart of SSIS. So now from now onward for next couple of sessions, we are going to discuss about this ETL. And we have three different important items in this data flow, that is sources, transformations, and destinations. Sources is nothing but it means extracting. You are extracting from the source. So you are going to use the sources to achieve this first part, that is extracting of the data. So extracting of the data can be done using the sources. And the second one is transformations. Transformations is used to transform the data. Okay, transforming the data like copying a new column or modifying the value in the column or updating the values in the column and so on. And finally, you have one more group of toolbox item, that is destinations, which is nothing but loading the data to the destination. So three different groups for three different works. One is for extracting, and one is for transforming the data, and another one is for loading the data. So in this session, let's discuss about all the sources that are available for extracting the data from all the items that are available for extracting the data from different sources. So as you can see here, we have ADO.NET source, Excel source, flat file source, OLEDB, raw file, and XML source. Okay, let's start with ADO.NET source. ADO.NET source, it uses the .NET providers for connecting to the databases. If you're using with if you're familiar with the .NET, there is a separate module called ADO.NET, and that is a very important module in .NET language. So all the database connections and moving or inserting the data or updating the data in the database or deleting the data or making any changes, any actions on the database will be handled through ADO.NET module. So that's the same way you have ADO.NET source, the provider, which helps in connecting to the database and pulling the data from the database in the same fashion like in .NET language using .NET providers. Let's see how to set the connection. So either you can set the connection directly here in the bottom in the connection managers, or you can select a new button here which will open the ADO.NET connection manager. If you click on new, already the connections are set, but let me remove it. It will be like this when you log in for first time. So you have to click on new, and you can see the provider. All the providers it's gonna give is .NET providers. So this ADO.NET source uses the .NET providers, and it will have its own functionality, own definitions for connecting and all. So here you have to provide the remaining settings. It's just like the OLEDB connection. You have to give the server name where you have the data, and in our case it's localhost, and authentication. If it is SQL Server authentication, you have to provide, I think I still remember the password. Let me try. So you have to select the SQL Server authentication and provide the ID and password, and save my password option to save the password. And database, I'll select AdventureWorks database. Or let me go with, I think I have one more instance of SQL Server. Let me try. I'm not sure. Let me check whether I have it or not. It should be /. I missed it. It's become not responding. We need to give a couple of minutes for it to come back. Okay guys, forget about the instance. I'll go with the database default instance, and let me go with AdventureWorks database. Let me test the connection. The connection is successful, and let me click on OK. Now if you click on OK, the database is set. Sorry, the connection string is set to connect to the database. And next, the data access mode, you have two options. One is table or view or SQL command. You can go for table or view, or you can go for SQL command. If you go for SQL command, you can build query. Okay, let me go for table or view in this case, and let me select one table from this database. Why? Because I'm not familiar with this database, and I don't know what's the table names. Okay, let me go for SSIS logs, which we have created yesterday. Or what is the table we have created? Sorry, the log created. It is SYS SSIS log. This is the table that was created when we were discussing about SSIS logging concepts. Now, if you click on the columns, it will give you what are the columns that are present. what is the column name you want to show as output column. You can specify it, you can change it, and this is the external column. That means whatever the column that is coming from the select statement. Okay. Now error output. This is a different page which helps you in setting. Okay, what happens to a row if an error occurred while pulling a particular row? What you want to do? Let's say the destination is set the length of the string is set to 50 characters, and if you are getting 75 characters, then obviously truncation will happen. The data will be truncated. So in that case, what you want to do? You want to fail the component, that means it will be failed, or you want to redirect the row, that means it will be redirect to the failure items. I'll show you how it will be. And do you want to ignore the row? The same options will be there for error option. If any error occurred while pulling the records, then what you want to do, you want to fail the component or redirect or ignore failure. If you click on ignore failure, it will ignore and it will continue. Let's say if I want to set ignore failure for all the columns when the truncation occurs, I don't care if any truncation occurs, but pull me the data. Let's say 50 character length or 100 character length, whatever that is available in the destination, pull that much and push it into the destination. So in that case, I can select all and I can set ignore failure and click on apply. It will apply to all the columns whatever I've selected. It is for setting for, this option is for setting to multiple columns. Okay. Once this is set, click on OK. That means your ADO.NET source is ready. If I execute this particular task, let me disable all the remaining tasks here. I don't want this one too. As we are discussing about the sources, we don't need multiple options, multiple data flows here. Okay. If I execute this task, it will go, set the connection, and it will pull the data from the database table. So if you see, this is how it will be. This is successful and it just pulled the data and it has nothing. There is nothing to do after this. I just configured the source. Now let me show you one destination at least, so that I can push all the data that I'm getting from the source, or I will explain about one transformation. Okay. Let me explain about the sort transformation. What sort transformation will do is it will sort the columns. Let's say I have 10 columns coming in from my source. If you want to sort a particular column before moving to the destination, then you can use sort transformation. Okay. So if I need to configure like this. If you click on this, you can see the error row. So this guy, if you set the error output as redirect row, it will be redirect to this. It will be redirect through this error output. Okay. Now I set the ADO.NET source, whatever I'm going to pull. I'm going to push this to the sort transformation. And this sort transformation, I have to configure based on what column you want to set you want to sort the data. So if I select ID, it will sort based on ID, the same column, or output column, output alias. If you want to get it as a different column, you have to set it as output alias. And ascending or descending, what order you want to do. And this is the sort order, which one to be taken first and which one to be taken second. And you can go for multiple column selection here. Okay. And we will discuss about this sort again, like you have a remove rows with the duplicate sort values. All these things will be discussed when we discuss about the transformations. I'll tell you why I have dragged and why I'm using this sort transformation here. I want to see whether it is pulling the data correctly or not, right? So for that, it has to go from here to the next transformation. While going through the pipeline, I can see the data. I'll show you how we can see the data. So to see the data that is flowing through the pipeline from one task to the another one in the data flow, what you can do is you can go for data viewers. If you right click on this, you can see an option called data viewers. If you right click on this, the first in the general tab, it will have the default information about this, the connection from where you are getting the data. And the second one is important. The one is metadata, where you will have what are all the columns that are flowing from the source to destination, or the first task to the second task, source to destination. This is the source and this is the destination in this case. So right click, and if you go to the data viewers, you will have this wizard will open, and in that there will be an option called metadata, where all the information will be provided, like what is the column and what is the data type and what is the precision, scale, length, and so on. In the same one, you have one more page which is called data viewers. In this, you can configure data viewers. Now let me show you what is the use of data viewer. So to configure it, I have to click add, and there are different options like grid, histogram, scatter plot, and column chart. And let me select grid first, and then I'll show you the remaining three too. And I have to give some name, log data. I'll give the name as log data. And in this grid, what columns you want to show. You want to show computer message, or if you don't want execution ID, you can remove it. Or if you don't want source ID, you can remove it. And if you don't want data bytes, you can remove it. Or if you don't want data code, just whatever you don't want, you just remove it and click on OK. Now I set a data viewer of type grid. Data viewer type is grid, and I have selected 8 columns. So let me click on OK. And you can see a watch symbol here, right? A new symbol. So now let me execute it, and you will easily find out what is the use of the particular object called data viewer. So this first one is executed, and while before it moves to the second task, before it finishes, and right now it is at this point. It is sending 1477 rows. It is pulling 1477 rows from the database. Okay. And it is moving to pushing to the sort transformation, and what data it is pushing. If you want to see that, you can use data viewers. Let's say you want to debug it. There is an issue like one record is not inserting properly, or the data is not inserting properly, some truncation is happening. And if you want to find out where it's happening, you need to go for data viewers to see whether the data is coming correctly or not. You can see this is the I selected for ID, event, computer, and what else? Source, start time, end time, and message. I've removed the remaining columns. This is the columns I've selected, and I got all the information. And it's just a place where I can check whether it is coming correctly or not. So this is the use of data viewers. If you click on this, it will continue. It will go to the pages, and it is done. Now we can see this particular ADO.NET source pull 1919 records, and it pushed to the sort transformation. And sort transformation, it is just sorting, but it is not moving to any destination. Okay, I extracted, I transformed the data structure, and I'm yet to load. That means I have not used my destinations yet. Okay, so this is the use of data viewers, and you can set different kinds of data viewers. Like if you see, if you double click on this, if you go to the data viewers, this is the grid you have set, and if you want, if you want to add one more, you can set it, or if you want to configure the existing one, you can click on configure. Here it will take you to grid where you can modify, like adding new columns or removing the existing columns. And in general tab, you have different options like histogram chart. For this histogram, you can select only one column. That column, it will show you the trend, how the values this particular column is getting. And in the same way, scatter plot, the values will be mainly for integer columns or those kind of stuff. It will be useful. And column charts, how the data is coming. So let me set a column chart, and let me set the computer name, or let me set the ID, how it will show. So let me click on OK and execute this particular task. So I set it to column chart now. You can see for every line, for every ID, it is an identity column, right? The ID what I've given is identity column, and the maximum value is 1, and these are the different values. How many records are there? That many lines will be there. If I click on next, it will go for the total. See, this is how it will be shown. Now, in this particular case, the column chart is not the best example, but it depends on your requirement, what suits your requirement, how you want to see the data that is flowing from source to destination or from parent to child. So this is the advantage of using data viewers, and this is how you can set ADO.NET source to pull the data from SQL Server tables using .NET providers. So now if you see, you will not have the option of the disable here. So let me delete it to discuss about the next data flow sources. First, let me delete this guy as we discussed about this ADO.NET source. Let me delete it. Let me take flat file first before going to Excel. Okay, why? Because Excel we need to discuss a couple of points. So first I'm setting the connection. So first I have to set the flat file source, and you'll be having the same options here, the columns and the error output. But the only connection manager changes. So the connection manager, what it will do, the same way how you set the connection to the text files or flat file sources in control when we are discussing about control flow, here also we'll be setting the same. So I'm going to give the connection manager name as flat source, and the description if you want you can provide, and where is the file, you have to point to the file from where you are gonna pull the data. I don't think I have a table, a file. I think SSIS logs is the best one. I can take it. So, and you can see all the delimited part and everything is set, and if you check these column names on the first row, if it is the case, and if you go to the columns, it will give you the list of columns and the data that are available, and what is the row delimiter and column delimiter that is available that is used in the file that you are pointing to. And if you go to the advanced, it will give you options to change or to set the data types, and what is the output column width and text qualified, and you know what the text qualified is, true or false, if you want to check whether you will get that qualified text is coming to the particular field. And if you want to add new column, you can add a new column using these options, and if you click on suggest type, it will suggest you the types by taking the first n number of rows. Here in this case it is taking 100 rows and it is suggesting the types. If you want to take more, if you want the server to take more rows before suggesting the suggesting the data types, you can go for 1000 or 10,000 if your file is having huge data. And if you preview it, you will get the preview of the data, what data that is present. And if you want to skip any rows, and all these things we discussed when we were talking about flat file connection source in control flow. So if you want to skip some rows, you just select how many rows you want to skip from top. Let's say there are 2000 rows or something around that. Let me skip 150 rows. It will skip first 150 rows and it is set. So if I have 157 rows in total, I'll get only 7 now. Why? Because I'm skipping first 150 rows. And here there is an option, retain null values from the source as null values in the data flow. So if you are having any null values, then how you want to retrieve? For example, if you check this, it will retain as null. If you don't check this, then it will become blank for string columns and 0 the default value for integer columns. So if you want to check, you can check this option to pull it as nulls, or you can leave it as is. And if you click on this button is for clicking and seeing the preview of the data that is coming from the flat file that you have connected. Now if you see the columns, is the same page what you have seen for ADO.NET source. You can change the column names like this. Okay, and error output, it will be the same for every column. What you want to do if you get an error, and what you want to do if there is a truncation in the data that is coming from the source. So let me set it as file component and click on OK. Now the source is ready. Let me set it to destination, that is sort transformation here. Now I was connecting to the different set of columns, right? And now a couple of columns are missing. Compared to the last one, there are a couple of columns that are missing. So I've made the missing references as delete invalid column references and click on OK. So what I've done is, earlier there was some columns. Oops, sorry. The column is deleted, that's why. Now I've taken event. So what I've done here is I have connected to the text file as source, and I'm pulling the data from the text file and connecting to the sort transformation just to check whether the data is flowing properly from source to the transformation that we have selected here. So I want to set data viewers. That is the reason I selected the sort transformation. If I don't have this, I can't set the data viewers here. So that is why I selected the sort transformation. If I execute this, it will pull the data from the flat file source and push it into the sort transformation. And I can show you the same by executing it. So the task failed because we have seen, right, the data types were suggested based on first 100 rows, and there was some row in the middle which is leading to the data truncation. Let's say how it will. I'll explain you how it will be treated, how the data will be taken. This is one of the biggest challenge while going for the real-time data load from text files. Let's say you have a table like this, and a data file, and you have some 1 million records in this. So the suggest data types, the data types will be suggested by taking the first 100 columns, 100 rows. So if the first 100 rows of column 1 is having Rupesh, only Rupesh, that means it will take string of, that is varchar of ROOPESH, means it's 7 characters. It will take varchar of 7 characters. So what will happen after first 100 rows, if the data in the particular file, particular column is having bigger in length, let's say Rupesh is a bad boy, is the 150th row value, then in that case the truncation will occur. So that is why these truncation errors will be coming, and that is why people goes for the maximum number of rows for suggesting the data types. Okay, now let me handle this by setting the ignore or redirect. Okay, I'm going to redirect in the error output. I'm going to select all these columns whenever the truncate occurs. Instead of failing the component, redirect it so that we can redirect it to the failure components, and it will be captured in the fail path. Let me execute it. And you can see it is showing the values here. It is truncating somewhere. Some column is getting truncated. Let's see what is the column also. And it will get only the columns that are not truncating. All the data that is getting truncated will be moved to the error output. Here you will have an error output, and we can execute. We can set one more sort transformation to see the same. Let me show you that one also. Okay, let me set one more sort transformation like this and connect it to the error output so that we can see how many rows it is flowing through the error output. Let me copy this. And let me set it here. And let me set the sort. I copied the sort transformation, right? So let me delete it. Let me go for this guy. Okay. So here you can see you have two data viewers. The error files is going to one, and the remaining files going to the another one. So the successful files. So this is how you can configure the error output whenever your data is getting truncated. And if you want to set it, the data type suggestions based on a different number of rows, then 100. You can go to the advanced and you have a suggest types, and you can go for 1000, 100, or 10,000, and so on. So this is about the flat file source. The problem with this one is the data types. Flat file source, I can say. You have to set it properly. And in the same way, Excel will have you will face a lot of problems, even more problems than what you are facing with the flat file. So Excel is the biggest challenge, and most frequently you will be getting data in Excel. So I'll tell you what kind of challenges you will be facing. First and foremost problem is data type. It will be in a different data type in your Excel file, but this guy will take, SSIS or data flow engine will take a different data type. And the second thing is you will be getting null values even though the values are there in the database. That is in your Excel file. So let me demonstrate these two examples, these two kind of errors, and how to overcome these two kind of errors. Let's discuss about the same, that is Excel source. So let me delete this flat file data source, and let's discuss about Excel. Let me drag Excel and let me connect to Excel file. I think there is a Excel file which we have created while discussing about control flow task. That is, let me see, training. So I've selected the training and it will take the version. This is 2007 version Excel, and first row has column names. If you have column names in the first row, you have to check this, or else you have to uncheck this. And before going to that, let me show you what data I have in that particular file. Let me open the file, training in desktop. This is the file, and close this guy. I don't need this. And let me add few more records. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4. Let me take 10. Okay. And I have 4 columns, column 1, column 2, column 3, and column 4. I'm taking 1, 2, 2, 2. So that means if you see, there are a couple of integers and remaining are text fields in the column 2. So here it is asking for what you want to, what type of data access you want to go for. You want to go for table or view, or table name or view name as variable, or SQL command, or SQL command from variable. Okay. So if you select table or view, it will list all the sheets that are available in the Excel file, whatever you are pointing to in the connection manager. Let's say the data is present in the sheet 1, and let me click on preview. It will show me the data that is present in the Excel file. So you can see this is the data that is available in the Excel file, in particularly in sheet 1, to be exact. And if you go to the columns, it will give you the columns list, and if you go to the error output, it will give you the error output. Now I'm gonna take the sort transformation again, just to see what data it is flowing in the pipeline. And I'm gonna set data viewers here, and metadata. Let me see metadata. If you see, everything is selected as WSTR, that is string, right? Even though I have integers here, it is taking a string. Now what I'm gonna do here is I'm gonna click on OK, and I'm gonna create a data viewer to see whether the data is flowing properly or not, just like it is present in the Excel sheet. And let me set the sort option. Fine. Now let me execute it. So this Excel source should pull the data from the sheet 1 of the file, and it will push it to the sort transformation. And in the middle, it will show the data that is being pulled in the data viewer. And if you see, everything is coming fine. And even the 1, 2 to 2 is also coming, and it is converted to string. So if you have integer information, if you have string information, then it will be converting to string, and it will show in the string. And remember one point, whenever the data types are being, whenever the data types is finalized by Excel, by the data flow engine, it will consider only first 8 rows. Remember, first 8 rows. 1, 2, 3, 4. Let me go to the Excel. These are the first 8 rows, and it will go through these 8 rows up to here, right? These are the 8 rows, and it will determine whether it is a string or integer or datetime or whatever the data type. It will go for only first 8 rows of the Excel sheet table. Based on that, it will go for the determination of the data type. Let's say in this case you have 4 strings and 4 integers, so it is a tie and it is going for string. Now I'm gonna make a simple change. I'm gonna have 5 integers in the first 8 records and 3 are strings. Can you see? 1, 2, 3 string values in the first 8 records and the remaining 5 are integers. Now let me show you what will happen and how the data types will be decided by the Excel source. Let me edit it, and it is saying the output source, this value, the column 2 data type is changed and you want to change it automatically. I clicked on yes and click on OK. Now the data type is changed. It hit the file and it checked the data, it checked the first 8 rows and it is pulling the new metadata for the same, and you can see it is going for an integer one. So it will be based on majority. What is the maximum number of data type values that are present in the first 8 rows? It will check only for 8 rows. Okay, now it has become integer. Now let's see what will happen if I push the data from from Excel source to the sort transformation. These errors, this is because of the data type change, so you don't need to worry about it. Now let me execute the particular task and see what data it is going to show in this for the values that are present in string data type. This is the second issue I told you. People will be seeing null values most of the times. So it is because it will go to the first 8 records for sampling and it will check what is the major data type and it will fix the data type based on that. Now in this case it has taken integer and the values for the first, second and 10th, 11th, 12th records it is string. So string cannot be converted to integer. So that is why it is placing null values. Okay. And earlier case it was string and you can convert 1, 2, 3, 4 integer values as string, so it was converting properly. But you have to remember 2 points, very important points here is it will take only 8 rows for sampling, first thing. And second thing, if it decides as integer data type and if you are getting string values, any character values in the same, then it will return nulls, it won't show any data. So these two are very big challenges. Okay. Now let's see how we can overcome it. While setting the connection to the Excel, you can set a property called IMEX to 1 to pull all the records. Let me set that now. This Excel data source is using and I will show you where to set that. This Excel data source is using the connection. What is the connection string? Excel connection manager, or okay, I think this is the connection it is using. Let me go to the properties and you will have the connection string here. This is your connection string. Let me paste it to a notepad. And at the end, you can provide IMEX is equal to 1. So that means it won't care about the data type, it will just pull the data. Okay. Now I copied the same and I'm pasting it in the connection string. So IMEX is equal to 1 is set. Now you can see the external columns of the components out of sync to the data source. Let me set it to yes. Click on OK. Now let me execute this particular task. Before going to that, let me make the changes that happened to the sort transformation due to the data type changes. Now let me click on execute. And let's wait for the data viewer. So if you see here, it is pulling all the records in respect of, even though the majority is integer in the first 8 rows, still it is going on getting all the records. This is the workaround, and The second important thing is you should be able to tell the server, don't go for first 8 rows, go for first 100 rows, 200 rows, 300 rows, or 400 rows, something like that. So, but you can set that, you can do that. There is an option to do that. But I'll tell you the problem. If you do that, it will lead to the performance issue. Let's say if you set it to 0, currently it is 8 records, right? If you set it to 0, that means it will go through all the rows. If it is having million rows, and it will go through all the million rows, and then it will decide the data type. It will be very big performance hit. But I'll tell you where you can go and change it. It's all depends on the requirement, whether to go with that option and make the sampling as 100 rows or 200 rows or 500 rows. It all depends on the requirement. So let me show you where we can set the property. To set the property, you have to go to registry, that you can go by RESEDIT. RESEDIT we call it as. .NET guys must be familiar with this. RESEDIT 32. And if you go to this, you will find different options like HKey _ classes _ root and current user and local machine and so on. Go to local machine, and in that you will find software, and in that you will find wow something at the end, wow 6432 node. In that you will find you will find Microsoft. In that you will find Jet. And that you will find 4.0. In that you will find engines. In that engines you will find the Excel. So this is the Excel engine. See what is the hierarchy it is having. And in that you have type Gus rows. If you double click on that, you can see the value data is 8 rows. You can set it to 100. So this is 100. So this is where you can set it. If you come to RESEDIT 32, you don't need to go to the hierarchy just like this. You can do it simply by going here and find type Gus rows. Type Gus rows, right? It will search in the complete registry and it will return where it is, if it is available in the registry. But it will take time to go through all the items available in the registry, and it will publish. There, it will be easy for you to go on modify it, but you need to remember the key. So it will take time. It is searching through the registry, so let me cancel it. But if you type it correctly, then it will show you. It will take you to the particular registry. Then you can easily simply change the value to either 100 or 200, depends on your requirement. So these are the issues that you will commonly face. I mean that will come whenever you deal with Excel data sources, and these are the resolution. These are the workarounds. There may be new workarounds found or new solutions given by Microsoft, but this is the workarounds that at least I am aware of, okay, to deal with data from Excel sources. Now, this is about Excel sources. It is pulling data correctly, and so let me delete this Excel source and go to the OLEDB source. OLEDB source, it's a very familiar one to you guys. So let's create a connection and see how you can connect to the databases using OLEDB. Already a OLEDB connection manager connection is available, but let me create a new one by taking a new option. And here you can see OLEDB providers will be selected by default. It's not .NET providers. It's all OLEDB providers. That's the only difference you will find between ADO.NET data source and OLEDB data sources. Now let me give localhost and let me select the database. I'll go for AdventureWorks again. Test connection is not required. I know it will be successful. Click on OK. And here table or view or SQL command, or let me go for SQL command here. Select star from SSIS logs. And if you want to set any parameters, you can set it here. And we'll discuss a lot about the queries going forward. In every task transformation, for explaining every transformation, you need to set some source, right? So we'll be discussing about that time. And if you click on columns, it will list you all the columns that are coming from the source, and error output, it's again the same. The same error output will be available throughout the data flow. If you click on OK, now the source is set using OLEDB data source. And let me delete the unwanted mappings, the mappings that are not available. Okay. Now let me set the sort on top of what column you want to sort it. So let me click on OK. The sort is set and OLEDB source is set. And if I set the data viewer, it will show me what is the data that is flowing from the source to the transformation here in this case. Sort transformation. So I set the data source. Let me execute it to demonstrate the same. So you can see this is showing, this is pulling the data properly, and it is going through the pipeline. So the total number of records is 1919, and it has been passed to the sort transformation. So this is how you can set OLEDB source. And now let's see raw data file source. So when the let me delete it. First, let me move the data to a raw data file. Okay, from my OLEDB source, what I'm gonna do here is I want a file which has raw data. Raw data is not a normal one like your text file. I'll show you how it looks, the raw data. Then I'll set it as a source. Raw data file destination I'm taking, and I'm setting from source to destination. And let me set the raw data file. I have to just set the file name. New. I'm going for text document, raw, and selecting the, oops, it is going for new text document. The file name, I think it's not modified. The name I've given name as raw, right? It's not taken there. New text file, it's not available. Raw. Okay, this is the file. Okay, now create always or create once or append and truncate and append. It's create always. So every time it will recreate the file. Now if you select the columns, these are the columns and that are available, and what columns you want to pass to the destination. I want to pass only these three columns like ID, event, and computer. Let me click on OK. Now if I execute this task will pull the records from the OLEDB source, that is the table, and it will push only three columns to the raw file destination that I have set, which is nothing but a raw.txt in the desktop of my computer. So this has moved the records. Let me go to the file and see how the data is. This is how it will be. Can you understand what it is here? So this is the type raw data. Now to demonstrate the raw file source, I will use this guy as source. Okay, I'll use that one as source, and I'll connect to the file and move the data to the destination. I'll show you how it will be. The file name, where is the file name? The file name is in desktop and the file name is raw. I've selected it, and now if you click on the columns, it will give you what are all the columns that are present in the raw data file. There are three columns: ID, event, and computer. Click on OK and pass the data from this guy to the destination file. Okay, these are the mappings that is not valid. Now let me set the mappings again. Let me check the mappings again. Here if you see ID, event, and computer. So I'm pulling the data from the same file and pushing it. I don't know whether it will go for it or not. But this is how the raw data files will come. But remember, raw data files, you don't get it in real time. Generally, people don't prefer to send the data using the raw data files. But the advantage is this is super fast. It won't go for, if you observe, there was nothing called error output or nothing like that. It won't check for the data types and all. It will pull the raw data and it will push the raw data. The performance will be super good if you go for raw data file. Let me take this guy out. This is creating problem. I create file always, right? So let me take a sort transformation to demonstrate the raw data from raw data file. Raw data source from using pointing to raw data file. So if you talk about the performance, this is one of the best, as you don't have the headache of finding out the data types. And if you see the raw data source, you have only columns. You don't have error output, nothing. Okay. And now I'm setting the data viewers to see whether the data is coming correctly or not. Okay. And I'm sorting the first column just to see the data viewers. I'm not actually using the sort transformation. I'm not going to make use of any sort transformation here. So let me execute it. So you can see it is getting data from, and there are 1919 rows in the file, and it is getting all the records from the raw data file. So this is how you can use raw data file source in your data flow sources, in your data flow task. Now the last one is, if you have any XML source, you can connect to the XML source, the very familiar one. If you are good in XML, you can easily work with XML as source. If you have an XML file here, you can connect to the XML file. Some test.xml is there, and if there is any schema file, you can select that, or you can, if there is inline schema, that means in the XML file itself it will be available. If not, it will be available in any document, or if not, you can create a schema for this particular text file using this option. If you click on save, the schema will be created. The XML file is not correct shape, that's why it is creating problem. Okay. Now if you go to the columns, yeah, the schema is not correct. That's why this is not a valid XML. If you take a valid XML, and if you have a proper schema, or if you don't have schema also, you can create an existing. Once you create it, if you select the columns, it will list all the columns that are present in the XML file. So this also acts as, whenever you, nowadays I worked on a project where the source is only XML. There was no other source. The data will be coming in the form of XML files, so we have to move the files daily basis, and there will be some thousands of files coming daily, and we have to move the data from XML sources to the destination. So this is the source you can make use of to achieve such kind of requirements. And that's it for today's session. I know it's very late, and the next session I'll do one thing. I'll create an XML file to demonstrate this, and then we'll continue with the data flow transformations. Thank you guys. Have a good day.